Hi, and welcome to the Daily Vent, a medical mom podcast. I am your host. My name is Nicole, and I am a medical mom to a beautiful 19-month-old ex 23 weeker baby who is now home since September and has a trach, is on a vent 24/7, and has a GJ tube. I have been absent for a little bit. If you haven't noticed, probably no one notices because I don't think anyone really pays attention, but to this. But I was supposed to post every Monday a new podcast. And once I released my second week episode, I really think that things kind of just caught up with me emotionally. I don't know, in a way of this was kind of like therapy and it opened Pandora's box. I've been struggling mentally. This is going to be a really real and raw episode. If you follow me on any type of social media, you will see that I'm very open about that. I don't know what hit me. I don't know if it was kind of like a trifecta of finally being home and things just catching up, and the reality from the past, however many 16, 18 months hitting you, and grieving the motherhood that I didn't get to experience. I think the isolation is a big one. I think being completely isolated at home versus being at the hospital every day for 16 months and that being your social life, and then going to just being you at home with your son is hard. And I think it all hit me. And then I think it was just election week too. And that if that doesn't make anyone else want to just jump off a cliff, that too just not saying I wanted to jump off a cliff, but I'm just saying it was, I think, the cherry on top. So I I just got hit with this deep, deep, deep dark shadow of depression. I my whole life have always dealt with depression and anxiety. I've been medicated since I was 18, so it is something I'm fairly familiar with, unfortunately. It's very common in my family as well. My husband, on the other hand, has never experienced depression or anxiety, so it's very hard to explain to him, why if I sleep for 10 hours that I still can't get out of bed. And if you've ever had depression, you know what I'm talking about, when it's this feeling of like this heaviness that you are almost like paralyzed and you just can't get up. No matter how much sleep you have, you just can't get up because you're so mentally drained. You're so mentally drained that you just can't. You're so exhausted. And then you also just don't want to get up because sleeping is so much easier than getting up and your mind going again and facing the world. And that is depression. I also think that my anxiety medication that I'm on is too high, and that makes me more tired. But every time I try to go back on it, I start having very awful thoughts and can't handle the most simple tasks. So I don't know if it's the right time in my life right now to try and dial that back. I've tried and it just doesn't work. I think these are just normal motherhood things. I mean, it could be some postpartum stuff. I don't know, even though I'm like almost 2 years postpartum. But I think I've definitely lost myself a lot, like all moms do. And then when you're a medical mom, you lose yourself times 10. Yeah, I usually can talk really well. And I'm really struggling with words right now because I just am. I don't know how to feel. I am a religious person. I'm not super religious, but I do have my relationship with God. I don't really understand the Bible and I wish I did more, but I struggle with my faith with being ungrateful. Sometimes feel that when I sit in ungratefulness and I sit in these sad feelings, that not that God's going to punish me, but God's going to be like, excuse me, bitch. Like, look at everything I did for you. Like, look how great life is. Your son's alive and he is at home and he's happy. And what more could you ask for with the circumstances you were given? So it's the devil and the angel on the shoulder, like I always talk about. And so I try not to let myself sit in these feelings for too long because I struggle with that aspect. If I get too sad and complain too much, that God is going to be like, oh, well, here's something sad. I don't know, and not punish me, but I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if anyone else understands what I'm saying, but I just am struggling. I really think the isolation is really what's getting to me. I don't mind, you know, being a mom and all the chaos that comes with keeping the house up and all the things. It is hard though to keep up with all of his supplies and just daily breathing treatments, CPT, Valero, medicines, just syringes. I mean, that's a lot to keep up with on top of everything else, but a normal mom would have bottles and other stuff, I guess. I don't know. I always sit here and try to just make excuses. And I need to stop. I need to just be like, fuck, this sucks. Because it kind of does. But I don't like saying that because I'm so blessed. But I think I'm lonely. I think the isolation is hard. You know, if you have an immunocompromised kid, John is severely immunocompromised. He has never really been out of the house, he's never been around other kids. His lungs are so sick that just a common cold could be deadly. We are very careful with him. There are other families that are not as much careful, that are in the same thing, but their predicaments are so different because they have other kids at home that have already been exposed to things which expose their kids. So the kid's immune system is stronger and it's just different, right? So I don't judge anybody for what they do with their kid during virus season. I'm going to preface that with this. This is just our choice with our kid, with how sick his lungs are. I mean, he was a 23 weeker. And I understand it and I get it, why we have to do it, but it pisses me the fuck off. It makes me mad that I can't just go to Target with him and go grocery shopping or go to Publix with him. That makes me mad and sad. And I think that that's why I want to sleep all day when I can, which is rare when I can, but because I'm like, what else do I have to do? Sit in the living room in the same spot that we sit in every day by ourselves? I just feel so ungrateful saying these things because I fought and fought, and John fought and fought to be home and to play in his living room all day because he's happy. He doesn't know any different. But I'm lonely. My husband works and I love him. When he's around, it's fine. You know, it's not like my husband's like not hanging out with me. I do have, my mom will come by, which is nice, and my mother-in-law. It's hard. All of my friends have kids right now and they have healthy babies, and my brother just had a baby, and I am nothing but happy for them. I love them all very much. They have all been such good friends to me still and very sensitive and stuff, but it's hard and I will never blame them for it. But it is hard to find common ground sometimes, especially, when you see their kid half your child's age doing things that your kid just can't. Um, and that's difficult, or you see them going to do fun things that you wish you could take your kid to do. And that's really hard. And I know the time will come, and I know that this isn't forever, and I know that by doing this, it gives us a better chance at John having a long, healthy life. So I know the reasoning for living in the bubble, but I think seasonally the depression is just really difficult. Going from being around hundreds of people in the hospital every day to nothing is really hard, and I'm a social person, so I think that makes it even harder. Yeah, I'm struggling, very much struggling. I love my son. I love my husband. I love my family. I'm beyond grateful. God is so good. But I never expected this. I don't miss the hospital because, my child is thriving since being home. I mean, developmentally, in the 2.5 months that he's been home, he's developed 10 times what he could ever do in the hospital. And I don't miss being in the hospital. I don't miss seeing all the things in the PICU, but I do miss our family there. Those people there became part of us. And so when you go from seeing them every day to not, is really hard. And some of them come and visit, and I love them for it. And I love when they come and visit. But everybody has lives. Everybody is busy, and everybody has lives that don't revolve around us and John. So I never hold that against anybody. I never ask anyone, beg anyone to come. But I always tell people, they're welcome if they haven't been around sick people and they're feeling healthy, and we're just very careful. But this is just a rambling podcast. I don't really know where I'm going with this one. I'm just really in my feels, and I don't know if there's anyone else who can relate to this and maybe feel that they're not alone. I think that TikTok and Instagram and a lot of these Facebook groups for medical parents has been a saving grace for me to meet a community of people. I think I need to go out of my way to reach out to more moms, and there's some that I've offered to FaceTime us, during the day and stuff like that. And I think I need to just take people up on those offers because I think I need that. My whole life, when I was little, people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I never ever wanted to be a career person. I never cared about that. My answer since I was 5 has been I wanted to be a mom. I'd be in high school and people would say, what do you want to be when you want to grow up? And I'd say a mom. On career day, when you could dress up as what you wanted to be when you grew up, I came as a mom. I brought a bunch of baby dolls to school, okay, as a freaking high schooler. All I've ever wanted to be is be a mom. And some days I still don't feel like I am one because this journey hasn't really been normal. And so I'm just now home with my son, and I still don't feel like his mom. And I feel guilty for that. But I don't know when it's going to actually hit that, like, I am a mom, because I feel like a nurse, a doctor, a respiratory therapist, a caretaker, a social worker before a mom. I don't really get to do mom things first. Everything else comes before that in order to keep him alive. And I know that that's being a mom, and people will say all those things you're doing are motherly. It's just not what I ever expected my life to look like. And I, have thought a lot about it. God doesn't make mistakes, and that I was given John for a reason. And I don't mean this to sound cocky, but my whole life growing up, I nannied and I babysat and I watched kids, and I was called like a baby whisperer, essentially, like a newborn was. I've just always been really good with babies and kids. I thought motherhood was going to be so easy for me because I could take care of a newborn with my eyes shut. I've always been really good with babies and kids, and so I think that God almost knew that John needed a mom who could handle everything that he was going to need. So I think by having just the knowledge of the basic mom stuff already and motherhood stuff and baby skills took a lot off my plate already, because I didn't need to learn any of that. I already knew it. And so I do think that, I was given John for a reason. I think I do a pretty damn good job of taking care of him, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I wish my son didn't have to go through any of this, but I wouldn't change it because everything happens for a reason, and God, that boy is gonna change the world. I've never met anybody like him before. And people, when people meet him, they say that, you could see it through videos, but when you meet him in person, there's a joy. There's a joy from that kid that you just can't explain. You can't explain it until you meet him. It's like the Lord is in him. Like, I don't know how to explain it. He just has this joy that could literally change the world. It could solve world peace if John just smiled at everybody. Like, I don't know how to explain it. How blessed am I to have him as my son? But it's hard because some days I just don't feel like I'm his mom or I'm a mom, because I have so many other people that are, helping, or nurses, or he's just always had so many other people raise him, and it's never just been me, and everything I do is more of a caretaker or like nurse and stuff than a mom. I just am struggling, and I think it's a lot of things I've never talked through. I think what happened was is John was born, or I went into labor, 20 weeks, had a cerclage, it failed. Had him at 23 weeks. And at that point, you're just like, whatever you can do to save my baby. And then you get your baby to live. Baby almost dies at 2 months old, then you get your baby to live again. And then you think you're avoiding a trach and you're going to go home by Christmas, and then baby needs a trach. And you say, whatever, fuck it, he needs a trach, no biggie, we'll make it work. Then you get a trach. And then the trach surgery is pain in the ass. And then, because he has a pressure wound, and then he's got to heal from that. And then he goes home. And then he codes on you twice at home. And, it's just like, so every time something comes up, you're like, no biggie. He's fine. Whatever we got to do. Whatever we got to do to make life, whatever we have to do to keep him alive and to give him the best life. And you just push through and you don't question it and you don't think about it. You don't process those emotions. And then you're like, whatever we have to do to get him home. And then you get him home and you're home and you kind of push through for a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, okay, he's home. What next? I mean, this is it. This is it. We're home. And this is our life. And it's a shock to the system. And I think that that's what's happening, is that everything that I have pushed off and not even tried to process, because there was no processing. There was no chance to process. There was no option to process. It's either you do these things for your kid or you don't. Like you do it and that's it. And you have no other choice than to accept it at the moment. And so I think that everything's just kind of now 16 months of trauma is now hitting me like a fucking ton of bricks. And I think it's good that I'm now talking about it, but it is like opening Pandora's box, and it's very difficult. My husband and I are a good team, and we're not struggling. Our marriage is still really strong, but it's definitely, we had a conversation where it's like he feels as if we're roommates, like kind of in that roommate phase. And I told him everybody who has a newborn is in that phase when you first come home, and I knew that was going to happen. I've always struggled with that, argument of where your marriage should be first, your kids should be second. That's how the Bible says it and whatnot. And I get it, because if your marriage is good, then your kids will have a good life. I get it to a certain aspect, and I agree with it. But then there's certain points where it's like, when you have a kid like John, nothing comes before him. When you have a child who lives on life support, nothing comes before him. It's plain and simple. There is no way to put your marriage first, really. That's hard on a marriage. I've had to really explain to him, and he's been very patient with me, but I had to explain to him that, it's going to be a learning curve for us, a lot of trial and error, and it's going to be an adjustment these first couple months of him home, because I'm going through a lot of trauma and trying to find myself right now and figure out what the fuck is going on mentally. We still don't have 50% coverage home nursing, if that, which we thought we'd have full by now. It's a whole nother topic. He just started a new position with his job, so his hours are changing. It's just, we're just trying to make it work. We're trying to just make it work. It's as simple as that. And my son and his health comes first. After all we've fought for that kid, it's just going to come first. Not meaning my marriage can't also be a top priority, but, it's hard to be at the end of the night when I've been with this kid all day trying to keep him alive and everything, and then at the end of the night, the last thing on my mind is being all whatever, and whereas a man, it's like you can just be like, whatever, sex. And as a dude, and me, I'm like, oh my god, I just want to lay here and just not look at anybody or talk to anybody and just sit on my phone, because I'm so overstimulated. I have 8 million things I still need to do before I go to sleep, or I can't even go to sleep because I'm going to be up because I don't have a nerve. It's just really hard. Motherhood in general is just difficult. And if you're not a medical mom and you're listening to this, you don't feel guilty if you have medical mom friends. Like, there's nothing that you've done. Nobody holds resentment against you. It's nothing personal or anything like that. You can't help that you had a healthy baby. And we still love our friends who have healthy kids, and we want them to be around us. We don't want them to not reach out to us. We don't want them to not be around us. So don't think that. It truly takes a village, and I have the best village. I have 2 PICU nurses. I have 2 PICU nurses of John's who are actual angels. I don't know how to put it other than they're just good good people. They have become good friends of ours now. That they knew I wasn't doing well. So I got a text from them on Monday and it said, are you and Jordan available on Wednesday? Or what time does Jordan get home on Wednesday? And I told them, and they said, okay, we made you a dinner reservation at 5:15. We're coming over and we'll watch John and put him to sleep. And you two are going to dinner. And then they sent us a gift card to cover dinner. Who does that? I don't think they'll ever understand how much that meant. They came over and helped me pick out an outfit ahead of time. And I went over everything with them for the millionth time, even though they knew everything. It's the first time Jordan and I ever left John alone since being home. Not alone, but without one of us. And we went to dinner and it was the best night. It was so nice. It was just really refreshing to get out. And it was weird. It was hard. It was very difficult to leave John and not want to check on him all the time. But I knew he was in really good hands and they just loved on him. We're so blessed to have people like that in our life. Yeah, those are really special people. And I wish that everyone could have those two girls in their life, someone like that, because they're special, special, special people. And I don't cry. I am not a crier. If you know me, you know that I laugh when I'm emotional. It's like in uncomfortable situations and I don't cry. And so I think that this is just how fucking mentally undone I am right now, that I'm just an emotional mess. So I'm sorry that this episode just sounds like and me sniffling, which is not cute and it's probably annoying. So I'm sorry. A lot of emotions. So I'm trying to get over this and I'm trying to move forward. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, one of those nurses, about kind of what holds me back a lot about now that we're home and everything, it's great. But I fear a lot for the future because I overthink and I think about everything. And so, one day Jordan and I want to have more kids. Not anytime soon. But the reality is I have incompetent cervix and this is going to happen again. And I just don't want to go through this again. I don't want to put a child through this again. I can't go through this again. Having another micro preemie. But you don't want to let fear keep you from doing things like that, from growing your family. You can't let fear keep you from that. And so I need to stop thinking about it because it's not something that we're even going to talk about doing for years. But it does keep me up at night a lot of the times because it's like, yes, the vent's not forever and we'll get him off the trach. The trach's not forever. But what if we have to go through this again? I used to want to have 4 or 5 kids and now I'm like, I still want 4 or 5 kids, but not if every time I'm pregnant, I have I guess anyone has a risk of this, but I have like a 99.9% chance it's going to happen again. And that's really hard to mentally deal with coming from someone who's always wanted a very fucking big family. I'm trying to be more positive. I was not going to do any Christmas decorations or anything for Christmas, but I decided I'm not going to be a Grinch. So I found a Christmas tree for $25. It was 50% off. It's not really cute, but it works. I'm going to pull out my Christmas stuff. And this weekend, we're going to put up some Christmas stuff. Even though he won't remember it, I'm going to do it. My problem is no one ever helps me set it up and no one helps me take it down. So it's just a lot of work on top of everything else I have to do in life. But I think it'll be nice to do it. Going to make a Christmas card because I think that if there's a year to spread cheer, it's this year with all of our blessings. But I think I overdo myself sometimes. Actually, I know I overdo myself, but that's just the person I am. I like to be busy. Being busy also helps me from being depressed, but then I overdo myself and then I'm depressed more. It's just a vicious cycle. I apologize for how emotional this episode was. I honestly got on here and I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. I needed to do an episode, but I'm really not in a good mental space to just sit here and fake it and talk about something. But if this episode, reaches one person who's struggling and they feel the same as me, want to reach out and talk to me about it, I'm here to talk about it. It's just hard. And I always want to preface this with I am beyond grateful for my son, for his health, for our family, for my marriage, for our village, for our friends, for our house, for our dogs, even this crazy one. Yeah. I'm just so thankful for our home nurses that we have, the few that we have. I love them very much. And I always want everyone to know how grateful I am. I don't like to sit and just complain. It's really, really hard. This is not an easy thing. And sometimes I think that us medical moms are just so strong and resilient that we make it look easy because we have no other choice. People always say, I don't know how you do it. Wouldn't you do it for your kid? So when you have kids, you do anything for them. I would do anything for that boy. So you do it. Doesn't mean it doesn't take a toll. But I look at one day he'll graduate high school and college and get married, and those days I'll stand there and just be like, we did it, we'll get there. And that village of people that have helped us through will also be there. I truly believe that. So if you don't have a village out there, I am part of your village. This online community of parents that I've met is pretty amazing. Stop being a bitch, Nicole. God. Oh, so annoying. I don't cry. I never cry. I'm on too much Lexapro. My Lexapro doesn't let me cry. Usually my Lexapro numbs me and like something sad will be happening and I'm sitting there laughing. That's just me normally. So my mom and stuff everyone usually knows that I am like not doing good when I'm crying. Kind of a telltale sign. Thanks for listening. I promise that this podcast is actually pretty fun. Sometimes I do have like a whole list of like 50 episode topics that I want to do, and they're not all sad. I'd say most of them are not sad. A lot are either educational or fun or different parent stories. Just hang on. We're going to get there. I promise we're going to get there. But I just have to be honest with you. I can't sit here and do an episode about, I don't know, how to set up your wagon and home setup or just, I don't know, Medicaid or nursing, or I can't do that because I'm mentally just not in a good safe space. So I just needed to be really raw with you all and kind of share what's mentally been going on with me. And I think maybe some other parents feel the same way with now virus season, and being kind of in a bubble is hard. If you've listened this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful for everybody. We are very blessed. We are so blessed. So, so, so blessed. And it's going to be a good cold and flu virus season. It's going to be a good one. We're going to be positive. We're going to make it through. It's only fucking like 6 months. It's ridiculous, but it's only a few months. And we live in Florida. So, I shit on Florida all the time in our weather, but I will brag about it because in about a month it'll be nice out. So I'm sorry for all of you who live in cold climates and are stuck inside, because what happens in the winter for us Floridians, we actually start to go outside. Do the opposite. So I can actually take John outside. So maybe that'll help. Maybe going outside will help. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Daily Vent, a Medical Mom podcast. My name is Nicole. I'm usually not this much of an emotional wreck. I apologize. Thank you for being here and listening to my very vulnerable, inappropriate, and just confused and mumbled and jumbled thoughts. I promise that not every episode is going to be this sad. But thank you for being here, and I'm so grateful for every single one of you, and I hope that you have a wonderful week. Say bye, Waylon. Bye, Waylon.